In this week's Parshas Vayischanan, we have a very interesting pasuk in the second aliyah. The pasuk says, "Hishamru lachem pen tishkechu es bris Hashem." Be careful, watch out lest you forget the bris that you made with Hashem your God. V'asisem lachem pesel tumunas kol asher tzivcha Hashem lekechem. And you make an idol, you carve out an image, all that Hashem commanded you to. And the question is very obvious. Hashem commanded us to make an idol? Hashem always said not to make an idol. So why does the pasuk say, Kol asher tzivcha Hashem lekechem? So Rashi is very quick to point out, Asher tzivcha lov shaloi lasos. Rashi corrects the pasuk by saying it means to say that Hashem is commanding you not to make an idol. Okay, very good. But the question is, why does the pasuk still state it that way? Why doesn't the pasuk just say shaloi lasos? Which brings me to a story that I heard this week from the Boston Rebbe of Lawrence, which brings a very interesting pshat to understand this pasuk. And he said over a story from the Rebbe Rabbi Yaakov Shamshin Mishapativka, who was one of the foremost and famous Talmidim of Reb Pinchas Mikaretz. And he was traveling with his Chassidim to Zhitomir, where he stayed in one of the local kretschmers, a tavern, where the owner gave the Rebbe and his Chassidim their own private room to be able to stay in. And right next to that room was the bar, where the goyim and the locals came to drink every night. And they were loud and drunk and making merry and schmoozing. And the Rebbe overhears a certain conversation between two goyim. One of the goyim says to his friend that something very, very sad had happened to him. He said that his son Yannick was deathly ill. And the doctor said there's no hope. The only thing he could do that would probably improve his chances of living would to have a certain type of meat that would help him. And at that period of time in the calendar year, they were in the middle of something called Lent, which is a Christian time period. They weren't allowed to eat meat. So this guy went to his local priest to ask him permission, a heter, to eat meat during this time. It's going to save his son's life. Can he eat it? And the priest gets very upset. And he stands up and he says, How dare you? How dare you ask me that your child should be able to eat meat during this time period of Lent when all the Christians are prohibited from eating meat? No, your son should rather die for the sake of Yashka and whatever comes along with that, rather than eat meat. And so he had no choice. He went back to his family, and his son died a few days later. The Rebbe is overhearing this conversation, and he says to his Chassidim, now I understand a very difficult pasuk in Parshas Vayischanan, which is this pasuk we just read. Hishamru lechem pen tishkechu es bris Hashem, v'asisem lechem pesel. You're going to make yourself an idol? Kol asher tzivcha Hashem lekecha. Hashem commanded us to make an idol? No. Zok the Rebbe, the Torah is a Torah chayim. The Torah is a living, breathing Torah. It's something that is applicable to every situation, in every generation. We just finished the last aliyah. V'atem adveikem b'Hashem lekechem chayim kulchem hayoim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu appreciates chayim. Life is in utmost importance in Judaism. We have to understand that when we make decisions, Shabbos, if someone is in a shayla of sakana or pikuach nefesh on Shabbos, he doesn't keep Shabbos. He's mechal Shabbos to save a life. But even though Shabbos is shakol keneged kol mitzvahs, and we violate almost all mitzvahs in order to keep and preserve life. That's how valuable it is. Except for the big three, shvichas damim, vayzara, gil harayos. But we respect life and value life. That is Judaism. Goyim, they don't understand the power of life. So when you read the pasuk, Hishamru lechem pen tishkechu es bris Hashem, v'asisem lechem pesel, the Rebbe was saying, don't make the Torah into avodah zarah. V'asisem lechem pesel, don't make the Torah into something that the Goyim hold of, that they don't value life. The Torah is life. Keep the Torah, keep the life. And the end of the pasuk finishes off, Kol asher tzivcha Hashem lekecha. Don't make the Torah into avodah zarah. Rather, do kol asher tzivcha Hashem lekecha. Keep the Torah, what Hashem values. And we should talk about Shabbos Nachamu, to come back from all the averos that we've done in the past and see the building of Bayis Shlishi b'mehera v'yameinu. Amen. Have a beautiful Shabbos.